Hi, I'm Mark Mancini with VRBO Outstanding, the vacation rental coach. And today, this week, I'm coming at you with how you need to handle any Airbnb guest issues with damage. So stay tuned. And welcome back. So today's episode, I'm going to tell you about what I've learned in my 15 years of vacation rental experience and how to get Airbnb guests not only to behave, but if something goes wrong and they do break something or they do violate a rule, how you're going to be able to collect without worrying about any kind of retaliation with a review. So, coming to you from a sunny, beautiful North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's a beautiful day here, and it's early spring and vacationers are just starting to come down and your calendar is starting to get booked up now. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you the details on how I've handled these guests from Airbnb. Now, there's two things we're really going to go over here, okay? Now, this is a combination of some stuff we've already talked about in other episodes and some new stuff too. So, number one, we're going to get guests to behave. How do you turn bad guests into good guests? Second, if they don't behave or if they have an accident, how you're going to go ahead and get reimbursed without risking a low, maybe 1-star review or a 4 or 3-star review as a retaliation based upon this, okay? So I'm going to put the power in your hands. So pay close attention. Now, I want you to make sure you've watched some of our other episodes, because one of the things we're going to talk about right now is Rental Guardian's accidental damage protection. Many of you know I'm a big fan of OwnerRez. With OwnerRez, they integrate the Rental Guardian accidental damage protection. And we've got a couple of videos on that and how we embed that into each of our bookings, okay? And we actually charge a slight upcharge on it too. That is key, because here's why. Many times you have accidents, they're classified or have issues with guests. Many of the damages are caused by accidents. They're not really intentional. Now, sometimes they are, and we're going to talk about that next, but there's accidents. Maybe someone accidentally scratched something, something dropped, something fell, something broke, okay? And that's where that liberal coverage of accidental damage protection comes into play, okay? So you have to understand, punching a stainless steel refrigerator and leaving a dent is not an accident. Breaking a glass coffee table because you fell into it, that's an accident, okay? So the Rental Guardian protection, again, I want you to watch those episodes, but the protection covers anywhere from $500 to $5,000 worth of damage. I think we go for the $1,500 coverage, and it works out great, okay? So whenever a guest damages anything, whether they tell us or not, the very first thing I'm doing is putting a claim in to Rental Guardian and getting paid through that. I'm not even gonna tell the guest. 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, Rental Guardian pays the accidental damage, okay? The guest never knows about it. I get my 5-star review. Everything's copacetic. Okay, now suppose it is something that's intentional. Maybe they smoked inside your house, okay? Well, I don't have that issue because I lay out the ground rules ahead of time. I get signed rental agreements with each and every one of my bookings, okay? In the signed rental agreement, and we've got an episode. We have my attorney, Shannon Collier, on there, and we talk about the rental agreements, and I'm gonna have you go watch that video. And in that rental agreement, it's gonna be a price. If we find that you've been smoking in the home, here is the cost to remediate it, okay? And they get dinged a dollar amount, okay? We're gonna run the ozone machine and clean it up, which we have a video on that, how to use that. And aside from that, though, I will say this, the deposit works as a great big deterrent. Once you start doing rental agreements and deposits, you have to do both. They go hand in hand. The rental agreement is going to tell them what we're going to charge if you don't do something like maybe if you smoke in the house or if you have a party or something like that. And then the deposit is going to be added money that they're going to lose, okay? One of my homes, I collect $750 deposit, another one's $1,000. You may collect more, you may collect less. I wouldn't go too much less than $750 though, okay? $500 isn't really enough usually. $750 is enough of a bite where if they smoke in your home, it's worth charging that. So what I want you to do is make sure you watch those videos, you look at OwnerRez, and you start implementing best practices. By doing these two things, you're going to mitigate this. Now you have to use OwnerRez to get the accidental damage protection and to get the deposits, because you must be API integrated with Airbnb to get deposits. That's the only way you can get deposits. Now, can you use another PMS? Yeah, you can. Why not just use the best? More people, more hosts use OwnerRez than any other PMS, and there's a reason for that. The crap works great, right? I would say the other word, but I'm not allowed to say that on YouTube. So, the stuff works great, okay? Just go with OwnerRez, everything's gonna be set right there. Once you're API integrated with Airbnb, you can start doing deposits, and then you get your accidental damage protection, and you'll get your rental agreement. That is key because, again, the rental agreement, the deposit, that is really going to deter most of your guests from doing anything wrong. And then if they do something wrong, you've got both, and that's ammo you need to go ahead and recoup some of the expense, okay? If you go to use Aircover, which in my 15 years, I've never used Aircover, okay? I've generally always remediated it with the accidental damage protection, occasionally a small amount with the deposit, but honestly, you know, I've never really run into a serious guest issue when I'm using these tools. Prior to using these tools, yes, I dealt with a lot of crap. And that's why I use these tools now. Before I got rental agreements, before I got deposits, before I had accidental damage protection, I was exposed. And you know, sometimes my cleaners got to a home and it was way dirtier than it should have been. Sheets were damaged beyond belief. There was just stuff that I didn't want to name. And there was smoking in the house one time. It was only, thankfully, marijuana, so the smell dissipates when you raise the windows for a while. But where I'm going with is you have to step up your game, okay? Do not rely on Aircover. Once you rely on Aircover, here's what happens. You tell Airbnb, here's what happens. Airbnb then goes to the guests, okay? You're filing a claim with Aircover, they're gonna do their investigation. Once you get the guest involved, within that 2-week window you have to do it in, it's no coincidence that there's a 2-week window for letting Airbnb know about Aircover issues and with the guest leaving a review. So they go to the guest, hey, we heard you broke this, you damaged that, you smoked in the house. Guess what's gonna happen to your review? You already know you're getting hammered. Anything less than a 5 sucks, okay? Because anything less than a 5 is gonna drop that score down. I don't want 4-star reviews. And I've talked about this in another episode. Even if the retaliation's a 4-star review, that still is something I will not accept, and here's why. 4 out of 5 stars is an 80%, and 80 is 1 point away from a C, okay? C is average, and if I came home from school with a C, my mom kicked my butt, all right? She didn't even like an 80. She was the one who told me, Mark, you got an 80. You were 1 point away from a C. That is not acceptable, okay? So the bar was set pretty high for me when I was a kid. My parents are super strict. So I want to get only 5-star reviews. And to do that, you have to have a way where you have some leeway with the guest if they break something. And look, I've had things happen with like kayak paddles, okay? Kayak paddles accidentally break. It happens, okay? A lot of times the guest will leave it there and kind of hope that, you know, maybe I can fix it. Once I see that, boom, I take my picture, order new paddles from Amazon, submit it to Rental Guardian, I get reimbursed. Everything's good. I'll even mention it to the guest. They don't get anything taken off their deposit. No harm, no foul. Hey, thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed your stay. I'd love to see you again next year. And that's it, okay? That's how I get repeat business. I don't bust their chops over little things. I submit it to Rental Guardian. And again, they're usually on their best behavior anyway, okay? So in those times when I had my vacation rental in Murrells Inlet, and I wasn't doing deposits, and I wasn't doing accidental damage protection, and I wasn't doing rental agreements, I got taken advantage of, and I ate too much damage that I shouldn't have. And that's where I learned to wise up about 10 years ago and jumped on board with OwnerRez, okay? Because I've been with OwnerRez for about 10 years. Initially, it was for that very thing, the Rental Guardian, accidental damage protection, and the rental agreements. The deposits came later, okay? Initially, though, with the one house, I was exclusively on VRBO, okay? Because they filled my house from March 1st until October 15th, okay? 7 months, 8 months out of the year, I was booked, no week was open, okay? Just on VRBO. So I used VRBO's deposit feature, and I used the accidental damage protection, and that's how I protected myself. But I've grown, I've evolved, and I found out what works. And this is why I'm here with you today. I've been doing this 15 years. There's no reason you have to reinvent the wheel. Jump on board with a PMS like OwnerRez. Get API integrated. Start taking deposits not only with Airbnb, but with VRBO. Utilize the accidental damage protection. Watch those other videos I have on it. And that's how you're going to protect yourself from people who maybe aren't the best renters. Again, I will rent to anyone. I'll rent to a first-time Airbnb person. I'll rent to someone with 3 stars because I'm getting the rental agreement. I'm getting a deposit. I'm going to turn a bad guest good. So, hope you learned a lot from this episode. Thank you for joining me this week, and we'll see you again next week on the Vacation Rental Coach, Mark from VRB Outstanding. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you again.